Good morning, friends. I'm Mike Troutman. I'm a retired Presbyterian pastor in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm joined by my colleague, the Reverend Dr. Steve Langford, a retired pastor Methodist in Arlington, Texas. And today on this, what we would call Maundy Thursday, Commandment Thursday, we're bringing to you the story of the Easter rising of Christ. And Steve's going to read it to us from Matthew.
So Matthew chapter 28 from the New Revised Standard Translation, Matthew's account of Resurrection Sunday. Now after the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord appeared descending from heaven, came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, his clothing white as snow. For fear of him, the guard shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised. As he said, come see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead, and indeed he is going ahead of you to Galilee, and there you will see him. This is my message for you." So they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to tell the disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came to him, took hold of his feet and worshipped him. And then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." The word of God.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God. Couple of interesting things about the account.
Yeah.
There's more interaction, there's greater detail with the angel than time spent with Jesus. Well, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the description of the angel, the earthquake, his appearance, etc., reminds me of the description of the Transfiguration.
Mm-hmm. So hard to hear new things in this story.
Yes, yes.
It's almost like we feel, I think, and I know it's true for me, that these familiar stories, I think I know everything about them already. Heard them every 3 years. And yet, I think that creates a certain conceptual blindness in me, that
Sure.
because I think I have everything locked down on them, that I don't hear the newness that can come through it and break through it. So the question is, what do you hear in here that you didn't hear before, Steve?
How do we break through the familiarity? Yeah. Those were two of the things that stood out to me just about the account. But there's the language here that I think we often forget. The angel said in verse 7, Jesus has been raised from the dead. Our Easter greeting is he is risen.
Yeah.
But this says he's been raised. In other words, he didn't do it himself.
That's right. He's passive in this.
Yes. So the raising comes from God.
Absolutely.
Which suggests to us that, it suggests to me that Jesus went to the cross facing death, knowing that God was the one who had power over death, not him.
Yeah.
And that he went in faith, trusting God.
Absolutely.
Which is the way we have to face death too.
Yeah. And,
Trusting God.
I think as we go through this story, especially the stories told on Holy Week, one of the big, I think, revelations to me over time has been that Jesus went not knowing what was going to take place. I mean, he marched in Jerusalem, the temple, had his last supper. He didn't know the ending of the story. We don't know what he knew. I mean, John's gospel has that he knew everything, but I think, we can understand that, or at least contemplate what it must have been like for Jesus not to know the ending.
Yeah.
But yet the trust, which is just like us.
To trust God. Yep.
I mean, we don't know the ending. We think we do. We tell ourselves we do. But, can we trust God?
It is
It
is an act of faith.
The supreme act of faith.
Yeah.
I know I want comfort in this life, knowing that that there's something for me the next life. And I think it's human to do that. I mean, the fear, like the women. So how do that's what struck me, that you have that in the description. The women had fear and joy.
Yeah.
I usually have fear and more fear.
With fear and great joy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it just seems to me that to tell the story in that way of fear and joy really gives us kind of a model to help us walk through our own endings and the lives that we have today, that fear and joy seem to be complete opposites. How do you have both of them?
Yeah.
And I think for us humans, that is the reality. We have fear, we have faith, but we're fearful. And yet we have joy because we truly believe and hope and live our lives that he has been raised and we shall be raised with him. Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means. And yet even as we say he was raised, which means he didn't have power over death, in the book of Revelation, it says the keys of heaven, the keys of the realm of death have been given to me. So God has given him authority over death.
Yeah.
But it was not his until God gave it him.
That's right. And you think later on what it says in Matthew, as he's ready to ascend, and all authority on heaven and earth has been given unto me.
Yeah.
And so that changes the whole picture of trust and who Jesus is, and gives me at least an inkling of faith to be able to walk through, as the Psalm says, the shadow and valleys of death, that we walk through life.
And there's plenty in life that says this isn't real.
Yeah.
The harshness of life challenges our faith.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And well, it should. I mean, I think we do stand on that. I mean, what's Kierkegaard say about faith? It's like a leap off a cliff into a big abyss. And you don't know where you're going to end on that abyss. I mean, what's going to happen? And, how do you kind of then help people who are truly fearful find a joy? To compensate with that fear. I mean, we usually say, well, he's alive. Okay. as if that's the answer to the question, but I think the answer is much more complex.
Yes.
Um,
And it seems to me that what we're talking about is a conscious choice, that faith is a conscious choice we make to build our lives around one set of truths as opposed to another.
Yeah. Because I think, and the place we practice that, or we should practice that best at, is in the church.
Yes.
So that it is through the experiencing of being with other followers of Jesus who we love and care about and strive together with as we walk toward the kingdom, that we see the loss and their struggles and their battles or their faith as they go through this journey. And the church should be a place where we learn how to work out that joy. We certainly have enough fear in the world.
Yeah.
But we don't have that joy, I think.
And the spiritual community we experience reinforces that sense of joy.
Absolutely.
Calms that sense of fear.
Yep. It gives us a place to practice our faith.
Yeah. So the angel's language to the women, first, as is always, do not be afraid. And yet they went away with fear and joy. So the fear doesn't necessarily have to go away.
No, it doesn't. What's Jesus' last words on the cross? I mean, near, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Yeah.
I don't think we take those words too seriously. We want to jump from Monday, Thursday to Easter really fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's only when we kind of see and contemplate Jesus on the cross on Good Friday, and then enter into what, I don't know where I learned it, but I love the term Silent Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where the whole world, there's just silence. Silence from God.
Yeah.
And yet, are we willing to, can we hold on in the midst of that silence to wait till Easter to hear something?
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to your phrase, to Jesus's words on the cross, quoting from that Psalm 22. So that's what faith looks like. Even when I feel abandoned, feel no sense of God's presence, wondering where are you?
Yeah.
I still have enough courage, confidence, trust to pray.
Yeah.
And to call you my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that that is a prayer.
It is an act of faith.
Yeah, it's a prayer. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? I don't know why. What's this about? Where am I going? Where am I going to be? It's just loaded with all our existential, fears and wonderings, and where faith confronts the borderline between despair and faith.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, it seems to me that what we're discussing will not fit the desire many people have for certainty. We want to say, we know for sure.
Yeah. Well, I would think if Jesus didn't know for sure,
Yep.
how the heck are we, or how in the hell?
Yeah.
are we gonna know for sure? And I think, that's where we have to hang in there.
Well, what we have is something Jesus didn't.
Yeah,
We have the news of his resurrection.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And,
Interestingly, we can't prove it any more than he could prove that God would be faithful.
absolutely, there's,
We live by faith, Paul says.
yeah,
We trust God to be who God said God is.
the Anglican Bishop John A.T. Robinson wrote a book years ago, now I just forgot it. But he asked the question, what would happen to your faith if they found Jesus' bones in Jerusalem?
Mm. Yeah.
And it's like, holy crap, honest to God. That's the name of the book.
Yeah.
And for me, that was kind of a second year seminary crisis when I came up with that question. And I was really struggling with it. And I asked my mentor, Paul Smith, Paul, how do you think about this? It was after we did a pastoral visit together during my internship at Hillside Presbyterian, where he was a co-pastor. And Paul said to me, wherever Jesus is at, I'm okay with that too. And it's like, oh.
So it is in who Jesus is and in what he taught, not just the resurrection.
Absolutely. It was, for me, the eye-opening thing was that, do you believe or do you have faith in the story of Jesus?
Yeah.
And are you willing to put that faith to the test?
Yeah.
So that to say wherever Jesus is at, I'm good with that. If that's my final destination, I'm good with that. It's like, holy moly.
Yeah.
For me, that was just like kind of a huge awakening from my insistence that faith had to be historical and you had to have proof.
Yeah. But see, what he did is he took the ship, he shifted the focus from resurrection, is it real or not? Did it happen or not? To the story of Jesus, the message of Jesus, the meaning of Jesus.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, when push comes to shove, sometimes even I get a little squirrely on that. But, when push comes to shove, I would say that's the essence of my faith. My trust in God as expressed in Jesus. And so wherever Jesus is at, there I shall be also.
But you see, that challenges the common popular understanding of Christianity, of Christian faith, because that understanding focuses upon the cross and the resurrection, not upon the person of Jesus.
Yeah.
It's as though the person of Jesus, the ministry and teachings were all preliminary. What's important is the cross and the resurrection.
Yeah. And I think it just cuts, as you talked about earlier, that cord of certainty that we want to hold on to.
Yeah.
And just opens that up and says that, can you trust, and really, trust the process and your faith. And can you trust God in that? And I think that's why the church is so important. Because I don't think that's something that's learned by just saying statements. Jesus is alive, he rose from the dead, and things like that. That's learned in a community.
Yes.
Where our job's not to fix another person's view, because we've all heard at funerals that God needed another angel, or, you know, during deaths and tragedy, God, you know. So is that good theology? I don't think so, but do you take that away from someone as they're holding on to their hope?
Yeah.
I don't think so. But what you can do is help to transform that hope to be something that is not easily seen or grasped or understood to. And then again, I think the important thing is that it's not what we believe that saves us. You know, we don't have all the right answers.
Yep, yep. But so in this culture, though, that is often what we believe saves us. What we believe is what saves us. No,
No,
God's faithful love is what saves us.
absolutely.
And that's what Jesus trusted going into death.
Yep. And that's what we have to hold on to.
Yep, yep.
The
So our faith,
uncertainty in the midst of that.
our faith is in who Jesus revealed God to be.
Yep. And it's on that we stand. And so that I think we've gone pretty close to 20 minutes. But I think that's a good way. Could we talk about this for another hour?
Probably.
Yeah, there's no doubt. But, you know, the reality is that there's a time when you have to live in the midst of the uncertainty.
Yeah.
And
our certainty in the midst of uncertainty,
yeah,
is in who Jesus revealed God to be.
yeah.
It all boils down. It boils down to that.
And it makes sense for that in the 40 days after Easter to Ascension Sunday.
Yeah, yeah.
That Jesus had to stay around. You know, it's not that he could just, oh, I'm raised, hooray, now I'll believe. No, I've never, and we'll talk about that next times when we talk about Ascension, that, Jesus had to stay around to help the disciples kind of get it.
Yeah.
And that what they thought would happen after even if they had an inkling that he was going to be raised, what they thought was going to happen didn't happen.
Yeah. Didn't happen the way they expected or the way they wanted.
Yep. And so I dare say that our expectations will be blown apart, but completed in ways that we've never expected.
Let's hope they are. Otherwise, God's not bigger than us.
Well, we're gonna find out one day.
Yep, yep. Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna wish everyone that during this time of Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, Silent Saturday, that faith will continue to spring in each of our hearts and minds as we look forward to Jesus being raised from the dead, and expectations of our joining him one day wherever he's at.
And that will be enough.
That will be enough.
That will be enough. Thanks be to
Pray
God.
us out.
Sure. And so once again, merciful God, we rejoice in who you are. We rejoice in the gift of Jesus, through whom we catch a glimpse of who you are. And we thank you for your faithful love that never gives up on us or abandons us. And we trust you as we rejoice in the hope of resurrection. Move us through this holy time into deeper faith in you. Help us to fall in love with the beauty of who you are, is our prayer in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right, friends. We wish you a blessed time as you continue your journey of faith. Peace, Steve.
Peace, Mike.